If I asked you throughout the history of the NHL, which player had the single greatest individual season of all time, what would your answer be? Can a season truly be the greatest of all time if the player doesn't lead their team to a Stanley Cup or walk away with the Hart Trophy for the league's MVP? With the 2023 NHL season wrapped up with Connor McDavid putting up one of the most incredible individual seasons of all time, I wanted to put it into perspective and see how his great season ranks amongst the best individual seasons in NHL history. To answer this question, we first need to agree on a criteria to determine what best means. How do we quantify the impact of an offensive dynamo putting up 150 points in a season versus a defensive juggernaut who might not put as many points up but still impacts the game in a significant way? Well, I'm no mathematical genius, so I'm not going to try to come up with a formula that's able to distinguish between the impact of a forward versus a defenseman, or the differences in eras, etc., etc. Instead, we'll use the point shares method developed by the guys over at hockeyreference.com. I won't go through the formulas used to calculate the values for each player, but essentially this methodology tries to estimate the number of points that an individual player contributed to the total number of points accumulated by their team that season. So for example, if a player had a point shares value of 10 and their team accumulated 100 points in a given season, that player was effectively directly responsible for earning 10 points for their team that season, meaning that if that player was not on the team would only have accumulated 90 points. So the core of the stat is effectively based off how often the player's team wins, as an individual's point share is directly tied to the amount of points earned by the team, which at the end of the day is the point of playing hockey at the highest level. The methodology also tries to take into account the defensive impact of players, the key word being tries. I have to say, the methodology isn't perfect. There's a few notable things missing from the formula since the methodology doesn't make any distinction between even strength, power play, or penalty kill time on ice, which seems to skew defensive numbers a little bit. But hey, hockey isn't like baseball or basketball, and it's much more nuanced when it comes to measuring the total impact of a single player. So let's work with what we have. So here's a chart of the top 50 individual seasons in NHL history according to the point shares formula, and there's a few very interesting ones that I really wouldn't have guessed. The 50th best season of all time belongs to a young Ray Bourque, who put up a mammoth 31 goals and 96 points for the Bruins as a 22-year-old. Mark Howe's 1986 season was one that really surprised me, putting up 82 points for the Flyers. Spoiler alert, Mark is the only Howe on this list. Crazy, I know. We then start off with some of the usual suspects. Wayne Gretzky's 1991 season, where he put up 41 goals and 122 assists for 163 points, is only the 48th best individual season of all time. Mario Lemieux's 1997 season, which was the last season he played before a 3-year break due to cancer, is up there as the 47th best season of all time. That man was unbelievable. Jágr's 1999 MVP season gets him on the board at number 46. After that, this one really stuck out to me. Milan Hajduk's 2003 season at number 45. That's one name I didn't expect to see on this list, but hey, maybe I shouldn't be too surprised given how he torched my Canucks year after year. Then we get into a spree of younger players recording their best seasons. Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Johnny Gaudreau, and even Sidney Crosby. He only appears on this list this one time, surprisingly enough. Oh, what it could have been if it weren't for his concussions. Chris Pronger's dominant 2000 season where he took home the Hart and the Norris. Kane's 106-point 2016 season where he earned the Art Ross, Hart and Ted Lindsay Awards. Brent Burns and Cale Makar's Norris Trophy winning seasons all show up as some of the best seasons of all time. Alex Ovechkin's first appearance comes in at the 29th best individual season of all time with his 2009 to 2010 season, where he tallied 50 goals and 59 assists and took home the Ted Lindsay Award. Guy Lafleur then makes 2 appearances in back-to-back years in 1977 and 1978, where he led the Habs dynasty to their 4th straight cup. Joe Sakic and Dennis Potvin also make their one and only appearances here at number 24 and 25. Paul Coffey's best season comes in at the 22nd spot where he recorded 138 points. As a defenseman, I guess it pays to play with the great one. Alex Ovechkin then records his best season, clocking into the 15th best season of all time with a point share total of 17.2 in 2008, meaning he single-handedly contributed 17 of the 94 points accumulated by the Capitals that year. which means that if he wasn't on the team, the division-winning Caps would have missed the playoffs altogether and would have finished with the 4th worst record in the league. Safe to say he cleaned house that year, taking home the Art Ross, Hart Rocket, and the Ted Lindsay. We then get another couple of seasons from the great one in Super Mario until we come to Connor McDavid's ridiculous 2023 season, a 153-point season the likes of which the NHL hasn't seen since the 90s. For someone like me who isn't really old enough to have truly appreciated Gretzky and Mario in their prime, seeing what Connor McDavid is doing in 2023 is the kind of witchcraft I thought was impossible in the modern NHL. This was without a doubt the greatest individual season since the late 1980s. But there's still 10 seasons that ranked higher than McDavid's ridiculous season in the all-time books. Phil Esposito has had a few appearances on this list, but none were greater than his 1971 season, where he received the Art Ross and Lester B. Pearson trophies for his 76-goal, 152-point season. But he didn't win the Hart Trophy for league MVP, and you'll find out why soon enough. The rest of the 9 best seasons of all time are all occupied by 3 men. I'll give you a second to guess who they are, but I really don't think you'll need that second. Yeah, it's Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux, and Wayne Gretzky. Orr might have had a short career by most standards given he only really played 11 seasons in the NHL due to injuries, but his impact on the game is unquestionable. His 1974 and 1970 seasons put him at number 9 and number 8 on the all-time list. But this isn't the last we'll be seeing of Mr. Orr. Wayne Gretzky, the unanimous GOAT of hockey, had his 3 best seasons in the early and mid-1980s, with ridiculous point share values of almost 20 in each season. This was during his insane run of 8 straight Hart Trophy wins. Just bonkers when you think about it, considering he put up more than 200 points in each of these 3 seasons. Lemieux's greatest season came in 1989, where he put up 85 goals and 199 points. 199. And he still didn't win the Hart Trophy for league MVP that year. Gretzky won it that year, but it's hard to understand why, and it's probably one of the most disputed MVP awards of all time, given that Lemieux outscored Gretzky by almost 30 points. Funny enough, Gretzky's 1989 MVP season isn't even on this top 50 list, and that brings us to the best 3 seasons of all time. And I'll be honest, these were a little surprising to me when I first saw them. I had automatically assumed that one of Gretzky's 200-plus point seasons or Lemieux's 199-point season would be the greatest of all time. But, like I said before, that wasn't the last you saw of Mr. Orr. Robert Gordon Orr, aka Bobby Orr, a man who only played in the NHL for 11 seasons, holds the top 3 greatest individual seasons of all time and holds 6 of the top 50 seasons of all time. Orr was a god amongst defensemen and completely revolutionized the game. Modern defensemen like Cale Makar and Erik Karlsson probably don't exist if there's no Bobby Orr. Just look at this stat sheet. It's absolutely unbelievable. So the greatest season, according to the point share formula, is Orr's 1971 season, where he put up 139 points in 78 games. This season was good for a point share value of 22.8, head and shoulders above the competition. As expected, Orr won the Norris Trophy for Best Defenseman and the Hart Trophy for League MVP that year. What do you think about this list? Are there seasons that you were expecting to see that didn't make it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you subscribe to see more content like this.